Hello, my name is Beth Dixon, and we are covering a review for Math 0030. Don't understand why it says 1030 there, a typo, but this is the review for Math 0030 final exam review, and we're on page 6 of this review. And let's jump right in to the find the slope for each of the following situations. If you're asked to find the slope of a line and it gives you a graph, the easiest way to do that is to count. So we want to look across the line and find places where it crosses at whole numbers, where the graph crosses at a whole number point, which is where the two lines, where the grid intersects. And the line intersects at a cross point. So like here, not here, that would be a fraction. That wouldn't be at whole numbers. So this would be a whole number point. Here would be a whole number point. Here would be a whole number point. And we can see those as whole numbers because those would be exact points. Now I could write those points down. This would be the point -3, -3. This would be the point 0, -1, and this would be the point 3, 1. And I could choose any two of those and use my formula for slope, but this is much easier just to count. And so I'm going to count. And so this would be, I'm going to count, and I always want to count from left to right. I tell people this is because we are an English language speakers, and we read from left to right. We're not from the family of languages that read right to left. So we want to count from left to right. So we go from this left point to the next point. And we want to remember that slope is rise over run. So I'm going to count the rise first. How many do I need to go up to be even with this next point? So I'm going to go, and I'm going to change colors here so that you can see the difference between the points and how I count. So I'm going to rise to become even, and then I'm going to run to that point. And I don't know that that actually showed up as two different colors, but it is. So this is rise and then run. So this is my rise and then my run. Well, how far am I rising? Well, I went up 2 units and I'm running 1, 2, 3. So that's rise 2, run 3. Well, does that hold true for the next? Rise 2, run 3. So what is the slope? Well, the slope then would be rise 2, run 3. So the slope is 2/3. When we're finding the slope of a line described by a chart or a table, we have our input and output, and we can do that by finding the difference. I'm simply going to subtract the difference between each pairs of numbers. Now, I could take any pairs and that would work, but I'm just going to say 10 minus 5. I'm always going to find the next minus the previous. That works for some things in the future, so that's what I'm going to do. 10 minus 5 would be 5. 15 minus 10 would be 5. And then I'm going to do it on the other side as well, sticking to my color code here. And 11 minus 7 is 4. 7 minus 3 is 4. Remembering that slope is rise over run. I guess I should have color coded that, but I'm going to give up the color coding at this point. And my rise is the output. Why is the rise the output? Because the y is the up and down. And so the y value is your vertical movement. And so that would be the 5 over 4. which is also the 5 over the 4. So it's both the same, and it's 5 over 4. Now, if we're finding the slope that passes through 2 points, we want to use our formula. And our formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Basically, that means we find the differences in the y's divided by the differences in the x. So this is x1, this is y1, this is x2, this is y2. So that's going to be 6 subtract 2 over -3 subtract 5. 6 subtract 2, -3 subtract 5. 6 minus 2 is 4. -3 subtract 5 is -8. And that reduces down to -1/2. Notice that 4 divided by -8 is a -1/2. It's a reduced fraction. I can write that as -1/2, -1 over 2, or 1 over -2, and all of those would be equivalent because a positive divided by a negative is a negative. Next, let's look at 23a. Find the equation of a line that passes through the point 2, -3 with the slope of -5/2. And here's where I have to make a decision because there are a couple of ways to find the equation of a line. And so I am going to choose the way that I think most of the teachers are doing this, which is using y equals mx plus b. If your teacher uses y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, they're using my favorite way to write an equation of a line. I prefer this method, but it is not the most common method, so I'm going to use the one that I think will be most like what the majority of our teachers are using. This is also a correct method. I may come back and do another video where I do these problems using this method as an alternate. But for this video, I'm going to use this formula to write our equations of a line. When I read this problem, I see the first words, 3 words, are find the equation. That means my answer needs to be an equation. I need an equation for an answer, and I am not done with this problem until I have an equation. An equation will be y equals or x equals, and I need to find that. To find the equation, I need 2 pieces of information. I need the slope and the y-intercept. In this case, as I read the problem, I have a point and I have a slope. So I know the slope. The slope is -5 over 2. Now, with that in mind, what do I know next? I need to know the y-intercept. So I do not know the y-intercept, so I will take the form of my equation and I will substitute in this as x, this as y. So my y is -3, my m is -5/2, my x is 2, and I'm going to solve for b. I'm not going to turn my calculator, well, yeah, I'll turn my calculator on. My calculator's running low on batteries, so some of this I'm doing in my head. You can do in the calculator. -5/2 times 2. Notice I put the fraction in parentheses and the 2 in parentheses. It's not necessary, it just makes it look better. That's going to give me -5. So that gives me -3 equals -5 plus b, which would be -3 plus equals negative 5 plus b. I'm going to add 5 to both sides, and that gives me b equals a positive 2. Now I have my m and I have my b, but I am not done. I will not be done until I have an equation. So my equation would be y equals negative 5 halves x plus 2, and this is my equation. Now, I can check my equation by coming and pressing y equals, clearing out my equals, typing in my answer, negative 5 halves. Let me do that again. Negative 5 divide 2, and then I just type in the x plus 2. And then I'm going to press second, and then I'm going to press graph. That gives me the second, gives me the blue word, which is table. And that's going to give me a table. And what I'm looking for is that it has the point 2, negative 3 in it, because that should be one of my points. And if right there at the top, you see that it does have that point. Now, I can't really check the slope of it, but I do notice that my slope is negative. So that means it should slant downhill. So if I hit graph, my graph should slant downhill. Now I've got my window all set for a different thing. So I'm going to hit zoom and then 6. And there's the line. It crosses at 2. It's a negative slope, so that looks like it's a good equation. So find the equation of a horizontal. So let's go to the B part. That one's done. So find the equation of a horizontal line passing through 3, negative 4. Well, this may look like it doesn't have enough information. But a horizontal line, remember, will look like this, and all horizontal lines have the exact same y value. The y value doesn't change. The x values vary from left to right, but that y value is constant. So all horizontal lines are in the form of y equals a number. And since this is our point, and the y value would always be the same, the y value has to be negative 4. If you will remember and memorize that y equations are all of the form y equals a number, and vertical lines are all of the form x equals a number, there will be 2 types of equations that you'll get lickety-split and not have to worry about and really have to show no work for, because you know those answers. I hear a lot of, I'm horrible at math. Well, you may have been bad at math, but you have the opportunity to be good or better at math if you will take time to learn and to think about what parts of math you need to just memorize and learn. You not only need to think through why it works, but you do need certain facts memorized to be in your tool belt. Things that you can pull out and say, I know this as a fact. Just like you would memorize the bones of the body or the muscle groups for your human anatomy course, you can learn certain facts in math class and not depend on just being able to memorize a set of algorithms that you may or may not remember. You just want to go through the motions. Okay, let's look at letter C of 23. And it says, find the equation of the line that passes through 1, negative 4, and 3, 2. So this is the one that takes the most work, C and D. because the first thing we have to do is find the slope. And remember, our slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And so there's our x1, there's our y1, there's our x2, there's our y2. So that's going to be 2 minus a -4, and I'm going to put the -4 in parentheses to emphasize that double negative, the subtracting of a negative. And then on the bottom, 3 minus 1. So on the bottom, I get 3 minus 1, which is 2. On the top, you can put that in the calculator if you need to. My calculator is, like I said, about to die here. I'm going to charge it up between this video and the next. 2 minus a -4 would be plus 4, which would give me 6. 6 divided by 2 gives me a slope of 3. Then I'm going to substitute into y equals mx plus b. And it doesn't matter which of these points I'm going to choose. So I'm going to choose the one with more positives. Why? Because it's easier to handle positive numbers than negative numbers. If they have the same amount, I choose the one with smaller numbers. If it doesn't matter there, I choose the first one I come to. It really doesn't matter which pair you chose, which was one of the worst things I heard as a student. So I used to choose them both to prove that you could choose either one. Once I realized you really could, then I could believe what the teacher said. But if you want to just take my word for it, it doesn't really matter which ones you can choose. So we have the point 3, 2. Okay, so we're going to choose y is 3. My slope is 3. My x is 2, and then the b. Again, your x is 3. No, I did that all wrong. I thought I was doing it wrong, so that's why I double checked it. Notice that if you double check as you go, you don't get to the end of the problem. My y is 2, my slope is 3, and my x is 3 plus b. Now again, I'm going to check that. My slope is 3, my x is 3, my y is 2. So I checked it. Here I just wrote it, and because something seemed a little off, and because I always double check when I substitute in, because I get dyslexic substituting in, I double check my work, and I didn't get it right. So what do? I erase it, or in my case, since I'm using a pen and not a pencil, mark through it and try again. But in this case, I've got everything substituted in right, so that gives me 2 equals 9 plus b. I'm going to subtract 9 from both sides, and that gives me b equals -7. That -9 should be underneath. I should draw a line, get my b equals -7 underneath, but I'm a little cramped on room trying to solve it here on this paper. Am I done? No, because it said find the equation. So I am not done until I have an equal sign. And so even though I have an equal sign there, that's not an equation of a line, that's an equation for b. So I'm not done until I get y equals m, which is 3, x minus 7. That's an equation of a line. And again, I can check it, and this I will do on the calculator. I'll go to y equals, I'll clear out my previous problem. Move that up so you can see the bottom of it. And then I'm going to type in 3, then the x that's right here next to the alpha key, minus 7. And then I'm going to hit second table. And in this case, I want to see that it has the point 1, -4. Well, it does have that point. And the point 3, 2. And it does have that point. And if it goes through both of those points, I know this is the correct answer. And on an exam, that can be priceless and save you a lot of time. Okay, let's look at the next problem, which works the exact same way as C. So we're going to find the slope, and I'm going to subtract the y. So that's going to be 1 minus 8. And -4 minus a negative 2. 1 minus 8 is negative 7. 4, that'd be plus, and so that would be negative 2. So that's going to be 7 halves, and that will be positive. And so I've got y equals mx plus b. I'm going to go with the first one here. There's not a lot of difference, but I'm going to go with the first one. My y is 8. My m is 7 over 2. My x is negative 2 plus b. 8 equals negative 7 plus b. 8 equals negative 7 plus b. Add 7, and b equals 15. Sorry, I didn't mean to make a paper cattywonk. Okay, and then next I'm going to write my equation. Y equals 7 halves x plus 15. And again, I'm going to check it on the calculator, clear that out. 7 divide 2x, and I really don't need parentheses, but you can put them if you like, plus 15, and then go to your table, and I'm looking for negative 2, 8, so the first point is there, and negative 4, 1, and the second point's there, so I know that I did all of my arithmetic correctly. My form was right because I found the slope, I put it in, I found my b, so my process was right, but this lets you check your arithmetic as well. Okay, let's look at letter E, which is to find the equation of the vertical line. Remember, vertical lines go up and down. In this case, since the vertical line goes up and down, it's the x value that stays the same. So the x value is what's going to stay the same. The y values can change because as you go up and down, your y value would change. You can have a low y value, a high y value, and that goes up and down. You can't see my hands, but I'm going up and down. Your y values go up and down, but your x value, which moves left and right, does not change. It stays constant. And so our x value is constant while our y values vary. So in this case, this would be x equals 2, and there's no work to show for that. So that covers the next page of your final exam review, and we're through page 6. So I'm moving right along and getting these recorded, and I hope you're moving right along and getting these done and watching these videos. If you need to contact me for extra help, just contact me at beth.dixon@ws.edu. And I hope to see you soon. Thank you.